With Labor doubling down on its zero net emissions by 2050 policy, although claiming, as they say, you can keep the coal industry too, and the coalition and industry groups ramping up their criticism of a policy without a plan, the stage looks set for yet another climate change election in 2 years' time. As a nation, we are going round and round in circles. Labor pretends that we can reduce emissions at little cost and still keep jobs. The coalition rightly points to the economic costs of cutting emissions while following Labor at a distance for fear of alienating young voters and the climate warriors in its own ranks, who see everything about this issue not through the prism of Australia's national interest, but their own self-interest and electoral survival in their inner city seats. Meanwhile, the economics of baseload power worsens, and the long-term trend is more expensive and less reliable electricity, as well as the continued absence of leadership on the issue of nuclear power, the only true zero-emissions baseload option. All in all, it's a recipe for national decline. An indication of the pressures within both major parties is the National Energy Guarantee, the policy that put reducing emissions ahead of cutting price, and it brought Malcolm Turnbull down in 2018 when he himself dumped his own policy. But it now looks like it's being resurrected by none other than Labor's Anthony Albanese. I said at the time that this was a policy being put forward by Malcolm Turnbull as a Liberal government, but instead it was a Labor policy. And Albanese's adoption of it, well, that confirms what I said. Still, you can understand why nervous Libs are anxious about the politics of climate change. While today's polling shows that people are still as keen as ever to keep prices down, it's a harder sell in inner city seats where people have the financial wherewithal to withstand the price increases and their jobs are less at risk. Inevitably, when you look at polling amongst those under the age of 30, following plenty of educational indoctrination and the barrage of claims that this summer's season of fires were all the result of climate change, it doesn't surprise me to see an impact in today's polling numbers. Yet despite all of this, more people, the majority, say that fuel load reduction is the key to better fire prevention. Now, provided the Prime Minister can resist the Turnbull types in his own party room, there's now a clear path opening up to what would otherwise be an improbable fourth term. To achieve this, Scott Morrison needs to keep on stressing the benefits of technology and confirm that we can reduce emissions by the operation of normal economic factors without matching Labor's empty commitment 30 years hence, or 10 elections away, that means nothing if there's no idea of how much it will hit the economy, how much it will hit jobs, and no plan even to get there. Let Labor be the party of climate alarmism and policy changes that will obviously cost jobs, because Labor can't help itself. Here, as in left-wing parties around the world, there's a fight for the soul of Labor. The old Workers' Party, proud of its blue-collar origins, versus inner-city Green types, ashamed of the working class, yet hell-bent on resurrecting the proven failure that's socialism. But even Labor's plans, well, they could be worse. Last year, before the election, it was revealed today that Labor looked at setting up a special commission to limit coal exports in the name of cooling the planet. Massive market interventions to cap coal use, to cap coal mines, and to cap coal exports. As if anything we did here would stop countries like China burning all the coal they wanted and countries like Indonesia selling all the coal we didn't. And yet no thought from Labor in any of this about how to fill the gaping billion-dollar hole such a mad policy would have on our budget and the broader Australian economy. What's clear here is that this debate will get worse before it gets better, and we'll all be hit with more and more hysteria and misinformation unless the government takes up the fight to their opponents rather than just runs from it. Watching the Parliament today, in particular question time, the Prime Minister seemed very much back in the game. He's got the opposition's economic measure on this issue, provided he fights it on the numbers and the facts with the clarity of former Prime Minister Abbott and not on the climate theology and the appeasement agenda of former Prime Minister Turnbull. More Churchill, less Chamberlain. Over to you, Mr Morrison.